The night I saw a second moon, an alpha tried to kill me, and another one told me to run. Rain had a way of making the city feel honest. Everything sharp got blurred. Neon smeared across wet asphalt. Sirens softened into something almost distant. And even lies, especially lies, felt easier to step around. That's why I liked working nights. That, and the fact that most people with secrets preferred the dark. I adjusted the collar of my coat and checked my phone again. The last known location of the missing Omega blinked back at me. 3 blocks ahead, somewhere between a closed laundromat and a bar that didn't bother pretending to be legal. Great, I muttered. Nothing says I value my life like chasing a lead into a place that smells like bad decisions and expired beer. Not that I could smell it. That was the thing about being a beta. No heightened senses. No instinctive pull. No invisible threads tying you to the emotional chaos of the city. Just logic. Just observation. Just me. I turned into the alley, and immediately knew something was wrong. Not because I felt it. Because I saw it. 5 of them. Maybe 6. Shadows moving too fast, too sharp. A pack, their bodies tense, movements jerky like they were all running on the same broken wire. In the middle of them, someone struggling. Hey. I called before my brain could remind me I had no business getting involved in anything with claws. Every head snapped toward me at once. Okay, great. Fantastic decision, Isaac. One of them stepped forward. Alpha. You could always tell, even without the scent thing. It was in the way the others shifted around him, the way space bent just slightly in his favor. His eyes locked on mine, and something flickered there. Not curiosity. Not annoyance. Hunger. Wrong place, he said, voice low, rough. Wrong time. Yeah, I said, lifting my hands just enough to show I wasn't armed. I get that a lot. Behind him, the figure on the ground stopped moving. Too still. My stomach tightened. Let them go, I said. A pause. Then, laughter. Not loud, not amused. Just wrong. You don't even know what you're asking, the alpha said. He took a step closer, and that's when I saw it. I didn't notice the sky change. It was just suddenly there, 2 moons, hanging low above the buildings, almost overlapping. One pale and familiar, the other sharper, brighter, like it had been carved into the night instead of rising with it. For a second, everything went quiet, even the pack, even my thoughts. What the? The alpha lunged. I didn't have time to think. I barely had time to move before something slammed into me, knocking me back against the brick wall. My breath left my lungs in a sharp, embarrassing gasp. Claws. Right at my throat. Well, I croaked. This is new. Up close, his eyes were worse. Too wide. Too bright. Like whatever held him together was slipping. You saw it, he whispered. I see a lot of things, I said. It's kind of my job. His grip tightened. Behind him the others shifted. Restless, unstable. Like they were waiting for a signal. Like they were barely holding on. Then you shouldn't have come here, he said. Noted. I managed. He moved. And then. Enough. The word cut through the alley like a blade. Everything stopped. The alpha froze. The others stilled. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. I turned my head. He stood at the mouth of the alley, untouched by the chaos around him. Tall. Still. Completely in control. Dorian. I didn't know his name yet. But I knew exactly what he was. Alpha, the kind that didn't need to prove it. His gaze swept over the scene, then landed on me. Sharp. Assessing. Unreadable. Release him, he said. No raised voice. No threat. Just certainty. The alpha above me hesitated. That was all it took. Now. The pressure at my throat vanished. I slid down the wall, coughing, dragging air back into my lungs like I'd earned it. Dorian stepped closer. The others parted for him without thinking. Of course they did. He stopped in front of me. For a moment, he just looked. Like I was something he didn't quite understand. Or maybe, something he didn't like. You're a beta, he said. Last time I checked. His gaze flicked upward. To the sky. To the second moon. Then back to me. You saw it. Hard to miss, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. A pause. Something shifted in his expression. Not softer. Not kinder. Just different. Run, he said. I blinked. That's it? No dramatic speech? No, you've seen too much. Run, Beta. This time, there was something under the words, not a threat, a warning. And for some reason, I listened. I ran. An hour later, I was in my apartment, soaked, shaking, and staring at my laptop like it might lie to me. The footage loaded slowly. Street camera. Timestamp matching the alley. I scrubbed through. Rain. Empty street. Shadows. Then, there, I froze the frame. Zoomed in. My pulse kicked up again. 2 moons. Clear as day. No distortion, no glitch. Real. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Everyone else in the city had felt something tonight. Pressure. Instinct. A shift in the air. Me? Nothing. No pull, no fear. Just clarity. I looked at the still image again. At the sky that shouldn't exist. At the pattern starting to take shape in my head. This wasn't a story anymore, I murmured. My reflection in the dark screen looked back at me. Tired, wired, and just a little too focused. This was a pattern. If there's one rule in my line of work, it's this. When someone agrees to meet you after midnight, in a place with no sign, no windows, and no exit that isn't watched, they either know too much, or they're about to die. Sometimes both. The cafe didn't exist on any map. You had to know the door, knock twice, wait, then pretend like you belonged there when someone finally let you in. Warm light. Low music. Conversations that stopped just a second too long when I walked in. Friendly, I muttered under my breath. I spotted her immediately. Lila Cross, Omega, mid-20s, nerves wrapped in expensive clothes and a habit of checking every reflective surface like it owed her money. She didn't smile when I sat down. Tell me you didn't follow me, she said. Wouldn't be much of a journalist if I couldn't, I said. Her jaw tightened. This isn't funny. Neither is disappearing without a trace, yet here we are. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. You saw it, didn't you? No hesitation, no denial. Straight to the point. 2 moons, I said. Her fingers tightened around her cup. They call it the second rise, she whispered. Creative. I'm serious. Her eyes flicked toward the door. It's not supposed to happen. Yeah, I got that part. No, you don't. She shook her head. When it happens, alphas change. Packs change. It's like something flips inside them, something they can't stop. I thought about the alley, about the eyes, about the way that Alpha had looked at me like I was already dead. And you think this is new? I asked. She hesitated. That was answer enough. It didn't exist before, she said finally. Not like this. Define, like this. Her gaze dropped to the table, then, quieter. It's not natural. There it was. I leaned back slightly, studying her. Okay, I said. Let's assume I don't laugh and walk out. Who's doing it? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked past me. Her face drained of color. Slowly, very slowly, I turned. 2 men by the bar, not drinking, not talking, watching. Friends of yours? I asked. Her voice came out barely above a breath. No. Good, I said. Mine, neither. She stood abruptly. Isaac, you need to. A hand grabbed her arm. Fast. Too fast. The room didn't react. That was the worst part. No one moved. No one shouted. Like this was normal. Like this was expected. Hey, I snapped, already on my feet. She's with me. One of the men turned his head slightly. Alpha. Of course. Not anymore, he said. Lila struggled, panic flashing across her face. Don't. Isaac, don't. They dragged her toward the back. Gone in seconds. I moved. Bad idea. Predictable. Completely inevitable. The moment I hit the hallway, I knew I was outmatched. Too narrow. Too quiet. No witnesses. Perfect. I made it 3 steps before someone slammed me into the wall. Hard. My vision blurred. Curious. A voice said near my ear. That's a dangerous trait. Yeah, I breathed. Working on quitting. The grip tightened. Then, something shifted. Not in me. In the air. The pressure I couldn't feel, but could see. Bodies outside the hallway going still. Movement pausing. And then, Let him go. That voice again. Calm. Controlled. Unarguable. The grip on me faltered. Just enough. I twisted, slammed my elbow back, and ran, up the stairs, 2 at a time, out onto the roof. Cold air hit my lungs like a shock. The city stretched below, wet, glowing, restless, and above, one moon, just one, like nothing had ever been wrong. Convenient, I muttered, trying to catch my breath. Timing rarely is. I turned. He was already there. Of course he was. Dorian stood near the edge of the roof, coat unmoved by the wind, gaze fixed on me like I was part of a problem he hadn't decided how to solve yet. You're starting to make a habit of showing up, I said. And you're starting to ignore warnings. Occupational hazard. He studied me for a moment. Then, you met Lila. Not a question. She met me, I said, briefly, before she got dragged into whatever nightmare you people are running. A flicker of something crossed his face. Annoyance? No, something sharper. You shouldn't have gone to her. She knew something. She knew enough to get herself killed. I stilled. You're saying she's... I'm saying, he cut in, voice colder now, that you don't understand the rules of the world you're stepping into. I laughed once. Short. Humorless. That's the problem, isn't it? There aren't any rules. Just people like you deciding who gets to survive the night. His eyes narrowed. You think this is about control, isn't it? A pause. Long enough to matter, then, quieter. It's about preventing something worse. I stepped closer, then started explaining. For a second, I thought he might, then he shook his head. No. Of course, I said. Why would this be easy? His gaze lifted briefly, past me, toward the skyline. Like he was tracking something I couldn't see, then back to me. Sharp again. Final. If you keep digging. He stepped closer. Close enough that I could see the tension in his jaw, the restraint. Close enough that I understood. He wasn't as unaffected by this as he wanted to be. I won't be able to protect you. I didn't sleep, not because I couldn't, because stopping felt like losing something I didn't fully understand yet. The city outside my window was quieter than usual. Or maybe, I was just listening differently now. Everything felt aligned. Too aligned. My apartment looked like a crime scene, designed by someone with a caffeine problem. Notes pinned to the wall. Screens open. Files stacked across every surface that could hold them. Strings, yes, actual strings. Connecting dates, names, locations like I'd finally surrendered to the cliché. Congratulations, Isaac. I muttered, staring at the mess. You've officially become that guy. I dragged my hand through my hair and turned back to the main screen. Disappearances. I'd mapped every reported missing Omega and unregistered Beta over the last 6 months. At first glance it looked random. Different districts, different backgrounds, no shared social circles. But when I layered the timestamps, a pattern emerged. Clusters, not daily, not weekly, cyclical. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then, I pulled up the footage again. The alley. The second moon. I synced the timestamp. Then overlaid it with the disappearance data. My stomach tightened. Of course, I whispered. Every spike in disappearances lined up with nights like that. Not just violence. Escalation. Something was amplifying them. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the wall of connections. This wasn't chaos. This was rhythm. And rhythm meant design. Okay, I said quietly. Let's assume we're past coincidence. Next step, history. I opened the city archives. Public records, old astronomical logs, anything that mentioned unusual lunar activity. It took longer than I liked. Too many dead ends. Too many half-reports written off as glitches, reflections, atmospheric distortions, excuses. But then, I found it. Or rather, I didn't. I scrolled back 10 years. 15. 20. Nothing. No second moon. No anomalies. No unexplained visual phenomena tied to lunar cycles. Just one moon. Consistent. Predictable. Boring. Right, I murmured. Because reality used to make sense. I leaned forward, pulse picking up again. If it wasn't in the past, then it was new. I cross-referenced the earliest reports of heightened alpha aggression. Not official ones, those were useless. I went for forum posts. Underground chatter. Deleted threads I probably wasn't supposed to recover. The first mentions were subtle. Something feels off tonight. Pack's on edge. Alpha almost lost it. Then stronger. Second rise. Always that phrase. Always whispered, like it meant something people didn't want to say out loud. I traced the earliest cluster. Pinned it. And then I froze. A date. Not just any date. A very specific one. My eyes flicked to another file. City records. Governance changes. Infrastructure shifts. The formation of the council. I stared at the two timestamps side by side. Same week. Same week. A slow, cold realization settled in. That's not a coincidence, I said. No answer. Just the hum of my laptop and the distant sound of a car passing below. I stood, pacing once, twice, trying to shake the feeling crawling up my spine. Council rises. Second moon appears. Aggression spikes. Disappearances follow. I looked back at the board, at the lines, at the connections that no longer felt like theories. They felt like intent, like someone had drawn them long before I ever saw them. Dorian's voice echoed in the back of my mind. You don't understand the rules of the world you're stepping into. No, I said under my breath. I understand them just fine. I just didn't like them. I stepped closer to the window, looking out over the city. Somewhere out there, people were still pretending nothing had changed. That the sky hadn't split. That the nights hadn't gotten sharper. That something wasn't quietly tightening its grip around all of them. Around us. I turned back to the screen. To the pattern. To the truth taking shape in front of me. This wasn't discovered, I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. This wasn't an accident. I exhaled slowly. Someone didn't just find the moon. My reflection stared back at me in the dark glass of the screen. Focused, wired. Too far in to stop now. Someone built it. By morning, my name was trending. By noon, it was being quietly erased. By night, someone tried to kill me again. Balanced coverage, I muttered, pulling my hood lower as I cut through the back streets, really hitting all sides of the story. My article hadn't gone viral, nothing that loud. But it had spread just enough in the right circles, enough to get attention, the wrong kind. I felt it before I saw them. Not in the way alphas did. No instinct, no scent, no invisible pull, just pattern recognition. Too many footsteps matching mine. Too many reflections in dark windows that didn't belong to me. Okay, I said under my breath. We're doing this. I turned sharply into a side street, then another, then ducked into an abandoned building I'd scoped out months ago for a completely different story about illegal dens. Dust, broken glass. A staircase that groaned like it had opinions. Perfect. I moved deeper inside, keeping my breathing steady, listening, counting, 3, no, 4. Persistent, I muttered. A shadow moved across the far wall. Then another, and then they stepped into view, alphas. All of them. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was their eyes. Too bright, too sharp, wrong. Journalist, one of them said, tilting his head slightly. You've been busy. I get bored easily, I replied. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. You shouldn't have. Yeah, I said. I'm getting that feedback a lot lately. They spread out, not rushing, not hesitating, just closing in. Controlled, except not quite. One of them twitched, just slightly, like a glitch in a system that wasn't holding together properly. Another's fingers flexed, claws extending halfway before snapping back. Unstable. I took a step back. Let me guess, I said. You're here to politely ask me to stop asking questions. The first alpha laughed. This time, louder. Still wrong. Something like that. He moved faster than I expected. I barely dodged the first strike, stumbling sideways as claws scraped the wall where my throat had been a second ago. Okay, I breathed. Less polite than I hoped. I ran up the stairs. The building groaned in protest as I took them two at a time. Behind me. Footsteps. Too fast. Too close. One of them caught my coat, yanking me back hard enough to knock the air out of my lungs. I hit the floor, pain flashing through my ribs. End of the line. someone said above me. I rolled, just as a clawed hand slammed down where my head had been. The wood splintered. Fragments scattered. I pushed myself up, breath sharp, vision blurring at the edges. They were circling now. Closer. Tighter. Here's the thing, I said, forcing my voice steady. I'm really not worth the effort. You're not. The first alpha agreed. The information you have is good news, I said. It's mostly guesses. Not anymore. He stepped closer. And this time, I saw it clearly. The flicker. The instability. Like something inside him was pushing harder than he could hold. You don't look so good, I said. His smile twitched. I feel great. He lunged. And then he froze, mid-motion. Like something had grabbed him by the spine and told him to stop. The others went still too. Silence slammed into the room. Heavy. Absolute. I didn't turn this time. I already knew. Step away, Dorian said. No shout. No strain. Just control. The alpha in front of me trembled. For a second, I thought he might fight it. Then he stepped back. Slowly. Reluctantly, Dorian moved into the room like he owned it. Which, judging by the way everyone else reacted, he probably did. His gaze swept over the scene, then landed on me. You're bleeding, he said. I glanced down. Huh. So I was, adds character, I said. His expression didn't change, but something in it sharpened. Leave, he said to the others. No hesitation this time. They were gone in seconds. The room felt bigger without them. Quieter. I pushed myself to my feet, wincing slightly. Do you always show up right before I die, I asked, or should I start scheduling it? You shouldn't have published that, Dorian said. Yeah, I said. We've established I make bad life choices. He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that I could see the tension in his shoulders. The restraint. Do you understand what you've done? I connected dots. You exposed a system you don't comprehend. I comprehend enough, I shot back. Artificial lunar phenomenon. Behavioral amplification. Disappearances tied to control cycles. You think saying the words makes you safe? He cut in. No, I said. But it makes them real. A pause. Heavy. Charged. His gaze held mine. And for a second. Just a second. I saw it. Not anger. Not dominance. Something else. Something more complicated. Your mark now, he said. I exhaled slowly. Yeah, I said. I figured. They won't stop. I figured that too. Silence stretched between us. Then, what's your solution? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. Controlled. Stay close to me. I blinked. That's your solution? It's the only one that keeps you alive. I let out a short laugh. Right. Because nothing says safe, like the alpha who keeps threatening me. I haven't threatened you, he said. Not verbally. His eyes narrowed slightly. Do you want to survive this? I held his gaze. Then, yeah, I said. I do. Then you work with me. On what terms? His expression didn't change, but the answer came immediately. You share everything you find. And you? I keep you alive. I considered that, objectively, it was a terrible deal. Subjectively, it was the only one on the table. Temporary, I said. Of course. Limited trust. Obviously. No mysterious disappearing acts. No promises. I huffed a laugh. Figures. Another pause. Then, fine, I said. Deal. Dorian studied me for a moment longer, like he was recalculating something. Then, finally, a faint shift in his posture. Not relaxed, but settled. Congratulations, Dorian said. I didn't like the tone. You're officially my problem now. If you had asked me 24 hours ago what a pack looked like from the inside, I would have said, teeth, territory, control, simple, clean, wrong. Try not to stare, Dorian said, as we crossed the threshold. I'm a journalist, I replied. Staring is part of the job. You're staring like prey. I am prey, I said. Let's not get confused about that. He didn't answer. The building didn't look like much from the outside. Just another forgotten structure swallowed by the city. Inside, though, it breathed. Low voices, movement, the constant hum of bodies sharing space, tension threaded through everything like an exposed wire. Not chaos. Not quite order either. Something in between. Every head turned when I walked in. Of course they did. Beta. Out of place. Unprotected. Alive only because the alpha beside me said so. Comforting, I muttered. Dorian didn't slow down. He moved through them like gravity had shifted in his direction, and everyone adjusted without thinking. No raised voices, no visible force. Just compliance. That was worse. They're watching you, I said. They're assessing a variable, he corrected. Love being a variable. They don't trust what they can't read. Welcome to my entire life. That earned me the faintest flicker of something from him. Not quite amusement. Close. We moved deeper inside. Rooms opened up, sleeping areas, shared spaces, improvised boundaries that still somehow felt respected. No chains. No cages. Just proximity. Just pressure. How many? I asked. Enough. Helpful. They're not numbers, he said. They're responsibility. I glanced at him. That wasn't the answer I expected. Before I could push further, a sharp noise cut through the space. A crash, then a shout. Dorian stopped. Everything else did too. Like the building itself held its breath. Stay here, he said. Not a chance. He didn't argue. That was new. We moved toward the sound. Faster now. The tension in the air spiked as we reached an open room. And I saw it. One of them, Alpha, pinned another against the wall. Claws out. Teeth bared. Eyes blown wide with something that didn't look like control. It looked like drowning. Stop, someone shouted. He didn't. The one pinned struggled, choking, fingers digging uselessly at the grip around his throat. This isn't. I started. Second rise, Dorian said quietly. Of course it was. The attacking Alpha snarled, voice fractured. Can't hold it. His claws pressed deeper. A line of red traced down the other man's neck. I took a step forward. Dorian. I know. He moved. Fast. Not frantic. Precise. He didn't tackle him. Didn't strike. He stepped into the space like he owned it. Look at me. The words weren't loud. But they hit. The Alpha froze. Not completely. But enough. Dorian's gaze locked onto his. Breathe. A tremor ran through the room. Through all of them. Release him. The grip faltered. Tightened. Then broke. The victim collapsed to the floor, coughing, dragging in air like he'd just been handed it back. The other Alpha staggered, shaking. Horrified. I didn't. He rasped. I didn't mean. I know, Dorian said. No anger, no punishment. Just certainty. Get out, he added. Quieter now. Now. The Alpha stumbled away. No one stopped him. No one judged him. That was unexpected. I looked around. No panic. No retaliation. Just tension slowly settling back into place. Like this wasn't rare. Like this was managed. I exhaled slowly. That's what the second moon does, I said. Yes. And you just. I gestured vaguely. Fix it? I hold it together. I turned to him. That didn't look like control. It's not, he said. Then what is it? His gaze shifted briefly. To the others, to the room, to the quiet aftermath. Then back to me. Balance. I huffed a quiet laugh. That's a generous word for barely contained disaster. It's accurate. I studied him. Really looked this time. Not as the Alpha in the alley. Not as the man who kept showing up when things went wrong. But as this. The center point. The thing everything else leaned on, even when it didn't want to. They trust you, I said. They rely on me. That's not the same thing. No, he agreed. It isn't. A beat. Then, softer. But it's enough. I glanced toward the doorway where the Alpha had disappeared. He almost killed him. Yes. And you didn't punish him. He's already paying for it. I frowned. That's not how this usually works. No, Dorian said. It's not. Silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable. Just heavy. I folded my arms, leaning slightly against the wall. You're not what I expected. I'm aware. I thought you were controlling them. I am. That didn't look like control. It's the only kind that works. I let that sit. Then, quietly, you're keeping them from tearing the city apart. Yes. And from tearing each other apart. His gaze held mine. Also yes. I exhaled slowly. The pattern in my head shifted, not breaking, expanding. This wasn't just power. It wasn't just control. It was maintenance. Constant. Exhausting. Necessary. Yeah, I said after a moment. Okay. Dorian tilted his head slightly. Okay? I met his gaze. You're not the problem I thought you were. He didn't react. Not visibly. But something in the room felt different. I pushed off the wall, glancing around once more at the pack, at the quiet recovery, at the fragile equilibrium holding everything together. Fear was still there. But it had changed. Less sharp. More informed. Don't get comfortable, I added. I'm still investigating you. I would expect nothing less. I almost smiled. Almost. But as we turned to leave the room, one thought settled into place. Quiet, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. Dorian wasn't the villain I'd been chasing. And that complicated everything. The address came from a burner phone, and a voice that didn't stay on the line long enough to regret it. North District. Old Glassworks. He's still breathing. Barely. Then silence. I looked at Dorian. He didn't ask how I got it. Trap, he said. Probably. You still want to go? Definitely. A pause. Then, I'm coming with you. Of course you are. The glassworks had been abandoned long enough for the city to forget it existed. Broken windows. Rusted beams. The kind of place where sound traveled too far and not far enough at the same time. Cozy, I muttered as we stepped inside. Stay behind me, Dorian said. Still not how this works. It is tonight. I didn't argue. That was new. We moved carefully through the main hall. Boots crunching over shattered glass. The air felt stale, heavy with something I couldn't name. But I could see the effect. Marks on the walls. Scratches. Too deep for anything human. Recent, I said. Yes. A sound echoed from deeper inside. Weak. Ragged. Here, I said, already moving. Isaac. Too late. I turned the corner. And found him. Collapsed against a support beam. Breathing. If you could call it that. An alpha, or what was left of one. His skin was pale, almost gray under the dim light. Eyes half open, unfocused, like they couldn't decide what they were supposed to see. Hey, I said, dropping to a crouch in front of him. Stay with me. His gaze snapped to me. For a second. Clarity. He rasped. You're not what? I asked. He swallowed hard. Not tied. I stilled. Dorian stepped up behind me. Who did this? He asked. The alpha flinched. Not from fear. From something deeper. Conditioning. His breath hitched. They make it worse. The moon? I said. He shook his head weakly. No. Not moon. His fingers twitched, trying to lift, to point. Failing halfway. Control. He whispered. They push it. Push until... His body spasmed. Dorian crouched beside me, sharper now. Until what? The alpha's eyes locked onto his... You know, he said, not accusation. Recognition. My head snapped toward Dorian. You know? I repeated. Dorian didn't answer. The alpha laughed. A broken, horrible sound. They all know, he said. The strong ones. The leaders. His gaze drifted back to me. They tell us it's natural, he whispered. That it's us. His hand finally lifted, barely, enough to brush against his own chest. But it's them. His breath hitched again. Then, he stilled, just for a second, long enough to feel like the world paused with him. Then his body went slack. Gone. Silence filled the space. Heavy. Absolute. I exhaled slowly, staring down at him. Then, something caught my eye. On his wrist. A mark. Faint, but unmistakable. A symbol. Clean lines. Precise, not scratched or accidental. Placed. I leaned closer. Dorian, I said quietly. He saw it. His jaw tightened. Council, he said. Of course it was. I stood, slowly. turned to him. You knew. It wasn't a question. He didn't deny it. I suspected. That's not what he said. He was dying, Isaac. And you're not answering. His gaze hardened. Because, you're asking the wrong question. No, I said, voice sharp now. I'm asking the only question that matters. I took a step closer. How much of this do you already know? A pause. Too long. I knew it wasn't natural, he said finally. That's it? I knew it was controlled. The words landed harder than anything else. You knew, I repeated. Yes. And you didn't tell me. You weren't ready. I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Right. Because I was doing great not knowing someone's been engineering an entire species' behavior. This isn't about ego, he said. It's exactly about ego, I snapped. Yours. The council's. Everyone who thinks they get to decide what the rest of us live under. You don't understand the consequences. Then explain them. My voice echoed off the broken walls. Too loud. Too real. For a second, neither of us moved. Then, quietly, if the system collapses, Dorian said, so does everything holding this city together. I stared at him. And that's your justification? That's reality. No, I said. That's control. Silence. Then, Isaac. Don't. I stepped back. Away from him. Away from all of it. You should have told me, I said. His expression didn't change, but something in it shifted. I didn't, I corrected. Another pause. Then, maybe both. That almost made it worse. I looked at him for a long moment. Then, shook my head. Yeah, I said quietly. No. I turned. Isaac. I didn't stop. Where are you going? To finish what I started. You can't do that alone. I glanced back over my shoulder. Watch me. And then I walked out, leaving him standing in the ruins behind me. By morning, I didn't exist. By afternoon, I existed too much. My byline disappeared from the site around 9:12 a.m., replaced with a polite error message and a broken link. By 11, my access card stopped working. By noon, my landlord called to ask if I'd vacated early, which was a charming way of saying someone had already packed my life into boxes I didn't remember touching. Efficient, I muttered, standing across the street from my building, watching two men in neutral suits carry out the last of my things. Council didn't do loud. They did thorough. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Tell me you're not standing out in the open like an idiot, Rowan said. I exhaled. Good morning to you too. Isaac. Relax. I'm being discreet. You're being visible, he shot back. There's a difference. I glanced up and down the street. Cars passed. People moved. Normal. Too normal. Where are you? I asked. Somewhere you're not. Which is why you're coming here. Comforting. 10 minutes. East parking structure. Level 3. The line went dead. I waited exactly 30 seconds before moving. Rowan's car was parked in the far corner, half hidden behind a concrete pillar, like it had something to be ashamed of. I slipped into the passenger seat. You look terrible, he said. You look concerned. Should I be worried? I'm always concerned. You just finally caught up. He handed me a bottle of water. I took it, didn't drink. Talk, he said. Council's cleaning house. I replied. Data's gone. My access is gone. My apartment's gone, he finished. Yeah. I noticed. Good to know someone did. Rowan leaned back in his seat, studying me. You stirred something, he said. And I don't mean the internet. No. I said quietly. You don't. A pause. Then, you're on a list now. Of course I am. Not the usual kind. That got my attention. I turned to him. Define, not usual. He hesitated. That was new. Off record, he said finally. No paperwork, no arrests. Just removal. I huffed a dry laugh. Subtle. They don't want noise, Rowan said. They want you gone before anyone notices you're missing. Too late, I said. Not really. I leaned my head back against the seat, staring up at the concrete ceiling. Yeah, I said. I figured. Silence settled between us for a moment. Then, you need to stop, Rowan said. I turned my head slightly. Is that official advice? It's personal. That's worse. I'm serious, Isaac. His voice dropped. This isn't your usual corruption story. This isn't some alpha overstepping his territory or a pack dispute gone wrong. I know. You don't, he said. Because if you did, you'd be getting on the first train out of the city instead of digging deeper into something that's already trying to erase you. I watched him, really watched him. The tension in his shoulders. The way his hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Fear. Not for himself. For me, Rowan, I said quietly. If I walk away now, what happens? He didn't answer immediately. He didn't have to. I'd already seen it. In the alley. In the pack. In the body on the floor of the glassworks. Exactly, I said. He exhaled sharply. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably. That doesn't bother you? It does, I said. Just not as much as letting this continue. He stared at me, then shook his head once, like he was already exhausted. You were always like this, he muttered. Charming? Impossible. I prefer persistent. That's not the word I'd use. A faint smile tugged at the corner of my mouth, then faded. Can you help me? I asked. Rowan hesitated. Then, off the record, he said, I can point you in directions I shouldn't know exist. That's all I need. For now. He reached into the back seat, pulling out a small bag. Burner phone. Cash. Temporary access codes for a couple of safe buildings. I raised an eyebrow. You keep these on hand? I work in this city, he said dryly. Of course I do. Reassuring. He handed me the bag. Our fingers brushed briefly. Isaac, he said. I paused. Be smarter than you usually are. No promises. I mean it. I met his gaze. Something tightened in my chest. I know. I stepped out of the car. The city felt different now. Not louder, not darker, just focused. Like something out there was already adjusting its aim. I pulled my hood up and started walking. No destination, just movement. Because stopping meant being found, and being found meant. I didn't finish that thought. Didn't need to. My phone buzzed again. Different number. No ID. I answered. Silence. Then, breathing. Not mine. Then, a voice. Calm. Measured. Mr. Hale. I didn't stop walking. That depends, I said. Who's asking? You've taken an interest in matters beyond your understanding. Yeah, I said. I get that a lot. A pause. You've been warned. Also not new. This is your final opportunity to disengage. I almost laughed. Almost. And if I don't? Silence stretched for a beat too long. Then, you will be removed. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly, looked up at the city stretching around me, at the people who had no idea what was tightening around them, at the system I'd just confirmed was very, very real, and very, very afraid of being seen. I exhaled, a slow, steady breath, then kept walking. If they wanted silence, I said under my breath, a faint sharp edge creeping into my voice. They picked the wrong journalist. Rowan's directions led me somewhere the city pretended didn't exist. No signs, no traffic, no reason for anyone to be there, which made it perfect. The building looked like a storage facility that had given up halfway through construction, concrete shell, no windows on the lower levels, security cameras that were either fake or meant to be seen. Subtle, I muttered. I circled once before approaching, no guards outside. That didn't mean anything. Inside was where the truth usually hid. The side entrance wasn't locked. That was worse. I stepped in, the air changed immediately. Cooler, cleaner, controlled, the kind of environment that said someone cares very much about what happens in here. Fluorescent lights hummed faintly overhead as I moved down a narrow corridor. My footsteps echoed just enough to remind me how alone I was. Or how alone I thought I was. Okay, I whispered. In, out, don't die, simple plan. The first room was empty. The second, less so. Screens, rows of them. Dark, except for one still glowing faintly in the corner. I moved closer, and froze. The display showed a sky. Not live, recorded. 2 moons, not identical. One stable, one fluctuating. Numbers scrolled along the side. frequency, intensity, something labeled phase amplification index. Yeah, I breathed. That's not normal. I pulled up a chair and started typing. The system wasn't completely wiped, which meant one of two things. They didn't have time. Or, they wanted someone to find it. I didn't like either option. Files opened slowly, encrypted, but not well enough. Project titles: Lunar Phase Modulation, Behavioral Response, Mapping, Alpha Compliance Protocols. My pulse spiked. No, I whispered. Yes. I opened the first file. Graphs filled the screen. Aggression levels, mapped against lunar cycles. Baseline. Then, a spike, not gradual, not natural, artificial, controlled. I switched files. Test logs. Subjects labeled by classification: alpha, omega, beta. Most entries focused on alphas. Of course they did. Subject to 17, increased reactivity under phase 2 exposure. Subject to 23, loss of voluntary restraint at peak amplification. Subject to 31, successful override of pack hierarchy under induced conditions. I leaned back slowly. Override, I repeated. Not just chaos. Control. They weren't just making alphas more aggressive. They were making them predictable. I opened another file. This one wasn't labeled for testing. It was labeled for implementation. Urban deployment, phase integration. A map of the city appeared. Zones, marked. Intensity levels assigned. My throat went dry. They didn't just create it, I said. They placed it. The second moon wasn't a phenomenon. It was a system, a projection, something layered over reality, something that could be turned on and off. My mind jumped back to the roof, to the sky. One moon, then two, then one again. Controlled visibility, I murmured. Of course. Why let everyone see it all the time? Better to make it feel rare, unpredictable, unquestionable. I scrolled further and found the worst part. Objective: stabilize urban pack dynamics through controlled escalation and release cycles. I stared at the words. Read them again. Slower. Stabilize, I said quietly. Through escalation, through forced loss of control, through fear. They're breaking them, I whispered. Then rebuilding them into something easier to manage. Another file opened. This one wasn't data. It was correspondence. Internal. Council signatures at the bottom. I didn't recognize the names. Didn't need to. The tone was enough. Detached, calculated, confident. Unregulated alpha populations present a long-term risk. Second rise provides necessary leverage. Compliance increases by 63% post-exposure cycles. Recommend continued expansion. My hands stilled on the keyboard. 63%. That wasn't theory. That was success rate. Jesus, I breathed. Footsteps echoed faintly somewhere in the building. I froze. Listened. Nothing. Or maybe I just couldn't hear it yet. I stood, scanning the room. More screens. More data. More proof. Too much to process. Too much to carry. I grabbed a drive from my pocket, plugging it into the system. Come on, I muttered. Come on. Files began transferring. Slow, too slow. My eyes flicked back to the main screen. To the sky. To the second moon pulsing faintly like a heartbeat that didn't belong there. All of this. Engineered. Calculated. Maintained. The alley. The pack. The man in the glassworks. Dorian. Everything clicked into place. Not cleanly. Not comfortably. But clearly. They're not controlling chaos, I said. They're manufacturing it. The transfer bar hit halfway. Then 60. Then. A sound. Closer this time. Footsteps. Not imagined. Real. Of course, I muttered. I yanked the drive free before it finished. Didn't have time for perfect. Had time for enough. I moved toward the exit. Every instinct I didn't have screaming through pure logic. In, out, don't die. Simple plan. The hallway felt longer now. The lights harsher. The air tighter. Like the building knew. Like it didn't want to let me go. I pushed through the door and into the night. Cold air hit my lungs hard enough to hurt. Good. That meant I was still breathing. I didn't stop walking. Didn't look back. Not until I was far enough away to pretend I was safe. Then, I pulled out the drive, held it in my hand, looked up at the sky, one moon. Perfect. Untouched. A lie so clean it almost worked. I let out a slow breath. This wasn't nature, I said quietly. The city stretched out below me, unaware of what had just been uncovered, of what had always been there, hidden just beneath the surface. This was design. I didn't choose the safe house. That should have been my first clue. It was one of Rowan's, half forgotten, tucked between two condemned buildings, with a door that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, it was clean, functional, anonymous. A place designed to disappear in, which was exactly what I needed. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. My hands were still shaking. Not from running. From understanding. The drive felt heavier than it should have in my pocket. Like it knew what it carried. Okay, I muttered, pushing off the door. Let's ruin a few more lives. I sat up at the small table, plugging the drive into a battered laptop Rowan had stashed there. Files loaded, graphs, logs, proof. Too much proof. I stared at the screen, until the words started to blur. Alpha compliance protocols. Yeah, I said quietly. That's going to go over well. I scrubbed a hand over my face. I should have been typing, organizing, preparing the next piece. Instead, I was thinking about him. Dorian, his voice. If the system collapses. I clenched my jaw. Don't. I muttered. Not now. Because the worst part wasn't that he knew. It was that he wasn't entirely wrong. A soft sound behind me. The door. I was on my feet before I could think, chair scraping loudly against the floor as I turned. And froze. Of course. He stood just inside the doorway, like he'd always been there. Dorian. No forced entry. No sound of locks breaking. Just presence. Your security is disappointing, he said. Your timing is worse. His gaze flicked briefly to the laptop, to the data, then back to me. You went to the lab. Observant. You took something. I folded my arms. Also observant. A pause. Then, you shouldn't have gone alone. I huffed a quiet laugh. Funny, I said. I remember you not being available. Something shifted in his expression. Small, but real. I was handling something else. Of course you were. Silence settled between us. Heavy, familiar now. You're hurt, he said. I glanced down at the dried blood on my sleeve. Occupational hazard. You're pushing past your limits. I don't have limits, I said. Just deadlines. That almost earned me something again. Almost. He stepped closer. Not aggressively. Not cautiously either. Just closer. You're being hunted, he said. I noticed. You're alone. I'm not helpless. I didn't say you were. A beat. Then, quieter. I said, you're alone. That landed harder than I expected. I looked away first. Temporary situation. It doesn't have to be. I let out a slow breath. Right, I said. Because the solution is obviously trusting the alpha, who keeps half the truth to himself. I told you what you needed to know. You told me what you decided I could handle. Yes. The honesty hit sharper than denial would have. I looked back at him. You don't get to make that call. I already did. A pause. Tension stretched between us. Then, why are you here? I asked, not sarcastic this time. Not deflecting. Real. His gaze held mine. For the same reason I was in the alley. That's not an answer. It is. I shook my head. No. It's a pattern. Exactly. That wasn't comforting. That's not reassuring, I said. It's not meant to be. Another step. Closer now. Too close. My pulse kicked up. Not fear. Not entirely. Say it. I said quietly. His eyes narrowed slightly. Say what? Why you're really here. Silence. Then, because you're in danger. That's still not it. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, because I don't want you to die. The words landed between us. Simple, direct, impossible to ignore. I didn't move, didn't speak. For a second, the world narrowed to just this, him, the space between us. You barely know me, I said. That hasn't stopped you before. Touché. A faint breath of something almost like a laugh escaped me. Then faded. "You don't trust me," he said. "No." "Good." That surprised me. "Good?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because it means when you choose to stay." He stopped, like he'd said too much. "Finish that," I said. His gaze flicked to my mouth, then back to my eyes. "It will be real." My breath caught, just slightly. "Enough." The silence shifted, not heavy anymore. Charged. Something dangerous. Something fragile. I didn't step back. Neither did he. "This is a bad idea," I said. "Yes. You're still hiding things." "Yes. I'm still going to expose everything." "I know." "A beat. Then why are we—" I didn't finish. Didn't need to. He was close enough now that I could see the faint tension in his jaw. The control. Always the control. But not perfect. "Not tonight." "Because," he said quietly, "you haven't walked away." I swallowed. "Neither have you." "No." Another step. Close enough that if I leaned, just slightly, I would. "Isaac." My name in his voice did something I wasn't prepared for. "Yeah? Think very carefully about what you're about to do." "I am." "Are you—" "No," I admitted. "And then?" I moved. Not much. Just enough. Our breath caught between us. Close. Too close. Almost. A sharp crack echoed from outside. Both of us froze. Instinct. Not mine. His head snapped toward the door. They're here," he said. The moment shattered. Just like that. Of course it did. I exhaled sharply, stepping back. "Of course they are," I muttered. Dorian's gaze was already shifting, calculating, distant again. "Controlled. Always controlled. Stay behind me," he said. "Not happening. This isn't negotiable." "Neither am I." A flicker of irritation crossed his face. Then, acceptance. "Then stay close." That, apparently, was the compromise. The door rattled. Once. Twice. Then, something heavy slammed against it. Wood cracked. Locks strained. "They don't waste time," I said. "No." Dorian replied, eyes already darkening, focus sharpening into something dangerous. "They don't." The door splintered. And they found us. The door didn't break. It gave up. Wood split inward, hinges tearing loose as three figures stepped through like they owned gravity. Not rushing. Not loud. Just inevitable. Dorian shifted in front of me. Of course he did. "Stay back," he said. "Still not my style." "It is tonight." I didn't argue. Also knew. The men who entered weren't like the others I'd seen. No twitching. No instability. Controlled. Perfectly. That was worse. "Mr. Hale," one of them said. Calm. Polite. Like we were meeting over coffee instead of in a destroyed safe house. "Depends," I said. "Are you here to kill me or recruit me?" A faint smile. "Neither." Bold claim. "We're here to correct a misunderstanding." Dorian's voice cut in. "There's no misunderstanding." The man didn't look at him. Not even a glance. "You've been unhelpful lately, Dorian." That got his attention. The air shifted. Subtle. Dangerous. "You're in my territory," Dorian said. "And you're in our system," the man replied. Silence snapped tight between them. I stepped slightly to the side. "Okay," I said. "This is fascinating. But I'm the one you broke the door for. Let's focus." The man's gaze settled on me. Measured. Interested. "You've seen more than most," he said. "More than we intended." "Yeah," I said. "You might want to work on that." Another faint smile. "You've seen enough to understand the necessity. Have the first?" He gestured lightly. "To what you found. The data. The projections." "Control," I said. "Manipulation. Forced behavioral collapse." "Stabilization," he corrected. I laughed. Short. Sharp. "Right, of course. You've witnessed what happens without it," he continued. "Unregulated alphas, unchecked packs, escalation." My mind flashed. The alley, the glassworks, the almost murder inside Dorian's pack. "You create the escalation," I said. "We manage it." "That's not the same thing." "It is," he said calmly. When the alternative is war. A beat. Then, quieter. You've seen the edges of it, Mr. Hale? Imagine it without restraint. I didn't answer, because part of me, a small, quiet, inconvenient part, could imagine it. Dorian spoke, low and sharp. You push them to the edge, then claim credit for pulling them back. We ensure they can be pulled back, the man replied. That's the difference. His gaze returned to me. And you understand that now? I clenched my jaw. No, I said. I understand that you're playing God with an entire species. Someone has to. That's not an argument. It's reality. Silence stretched. Then, we're offering you a choice, he said. I went very still. Of course you are. You walk away, he continued. You stop publishing. You hand over what you've taken. And you live. Simple, clean, terrifying. And if I don't? I asked. The answer came without hesitation. You won't. Dorian shifted slightly in front of me. Protective, reflexive. It didn't go unnoticed. You're making this more difficult than it needs to be, the man said to him. Dorian didn't respond, didn't move, didn't break. I looked between them. Then back at the man. You really believe this is the only way? I said. It's the only way that works. At what cost? At a cost we're willing to pay. That's convenient, I muttered. For us, he agreed. Another pause. Then, for you as well. I stilled. Explain. You've built a reputation on truth, he said. On exposing systems, corruption, power. Still working on that. Then you understand something most people don't. He stepped closer. Not threatening, not aggressive. Just closer. Truth is only useful when it doesn't destroy the world it reveals. That landed harder than I wanted it to. If you release what you've found, he continued, you don't get justice. You get chaos. I didn't answer. Because again, that part of me, that inconvenient, rational, calculating part, saw it. The panic, the instability, the collapse. Dorian's voice cut through it. Don't. Just that one word. Sharp. Grounding. I looked at him, at the tension in his expression, at the control he was barely holding on to, not over them, over himself. Do you believe them? I asked. He didn't hesitate. No. Even knowing what happens without control? Yes. Why? His gaze held mine. Because he didn't say it. He didn't need to. Because this isn't control. This is manipulation. I exhaled slowly. Turned back to the man. You're right about one thing, I said. His expression didn't change. What's that? Truth has consequences. Yes. And sometimes it breaks things. Yes. Good. For the first time, his smile faded. Mr. Hale, I'm not your variable, I said. I'm not your asset. And I'm definitely not your silence. A beat. Then, you've made your choice. Yeah, I said. I have. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the second burner. The one already loaded, already prepared, already set to send. Dorian's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. Understanding. The man's gaze sharpened. Don't. Too late. I hit send. The data launched. Encrypted channels. Backups. Fail-safes. Everything. Out. Into the world. Silence fell. Heavy. Absolute. Then, you've just destroyed everything we built, the man said. Good, I replied. Outside. Sirens. Not distant. Not quiet. Loud. Everywhere. Phones lit up. Screens flickered. The city reacted. I exhaled slowly. No, I said. I just showed them the truth. I met his gaze. Steady. Unshaken. And now they get to decide what to do with it. Behind me, Dorian didn't move. Didn't speak. But I felt it. That shift. That point of no return. The man watched me for a long moment. Then we'll see, he said quietly. What survives? They left the way they came. Not rushed. Not chaotic. Just gone. Like they'd never been there. But the damage? That stayed. I looked out the broken doorway. At the city. At the lights flickering. At the world starting to wake up. Yeah. I said under my breath. Let's see. The city didn't explode. It unraveled. At first, it was subtle. Sirens layering over each other, traffic freezing in intersections, voices rising just a little too fast, too sharp. Then, it broke. I stood at the edge of the safe house roof with Dorian beside me, watching it happen in real time. Phones lit up everywhere. Screens flickered. People looked up, not because they saw it, because they felt it. Too fast, Dorian said. You expected them to ease into mass panic? I shot back. I expected more time. Yeah, I said. So did I. A howl cut through the air. Close, then another, and another. Not coordinated, not controlled, raw, unfiltered. Your system's working great, I muttered. This isn't the system, Dorian said, already moving. This is what happens when it breaks. He jumped down from the fire escape without waiting. Of course he did. I followed. Because of course I did. The streets were chaos. Not cinematic. Not clean. Messy. Loud. Wrong. An alpha shoved past us, breathing hard, eyes unfocused, like he was trying to outrun something inside his own head. Two others were already fighting across the street. No structure, no pack formation, just instinct tearing at instinct. Hey! Someone shouted. Get them apart. No one moved. No one knew how. Dorian did. He stepped into the fight like a blade sliding into place. Enough. The word hit. One of them froze. The other didn't. He swung. Wild, uncontrolled. Dorian caught the strike mid-motion, grip locking down with brutal precision. Look at me. The alpha snarled, struggling. Can't? You can. No. You will. The command landed harder this time. The alpha's body jerked, shuddered, then stilled, not calm, not stable, but held, barely. Dorian released him slowly. Get out, he said. The alpha didn't argue. He stumbled away, shaking. I stepped closer. That's not going to scale, I said. I know. There are too many of them. I know. Then what's the plan? Dorian's gaze lifted, toward the skyline, toward the place I already knew we were going. The source. Of course. The lab? I asked. No. His expression hardened. That was a node. I felt something tighten in my chest. There's a central system. Yes. And you know where it is. Yes. And you didn't mention that earlier because you weren't supposed to get this far. I huffed a breath. Yeah. That tracks. Another howl echoed. Closer this time. Followed by a crash. Glass shattering. The city was slipping. Fast. We don't have time, I said. No, Dorian agreed. We shut it down, I continued. We end the cycle. No more second moon. No more, this. And then what? He asked. I hesitated. Just for a second. Then they deal with reality, I said. His gaze held mine. And if they can't? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. Because I'd already chosen not to care. Then we'll find out, I said finally. A beat. Then. He nodded. Decision made. Come on. The facility was hidden in plain sight. Of course it was. Glass and steel, rising clean and untouched above the chaos below. No visible damage. No panic. Because the people inside already knew. Security was tighter here. Visible. Active. And already stretched thin. Front door? I asked. No. Thought so. We moved along the perimeter, slipping through shadows, timing movements between patrols that weren't as coordinated as they should have been. Even here, the system was cracking. Inside, it was worse. Not louder, more controlled, more desperate. Staff moved quickly between stations, voices low, clipped, screens everywhere. Data streaming, graphs spiking, containments failing. Recalibrate the phase. We're losing them. Dorian didn't slow down. He cut through it all like it didn't exist. Which, to him, it probably didn't. Where? I asked. Lower levels. Of course. We found the access point faster than I expected. Or maybe they were too busy trying to fix everything else to notice two people slipping through the cracks. Down. Level after level. The air grew colder. The hum louder, like the building had a heartbeat. And we were getting closer to it. Then, We reached it. The core. It wasn't what I expected. No massive machine. No glowing sphere. Just a room. Circular, minimal, at the center. A structure, sleek, precise. Projecting upward, into nothing. Or, into something I couldn't see. This is it? I said. Yes. It doesn't look like it's controlling an entire city. It is. I stepped closer. Careful, measured. What do we do? Dorian moved past me. Toward the control interface. Disable it. Simple. No. Of course not. His fingers hovered over the panel. Paused. For the first time. Hesitation. Dorian. He didn't answer. Hey, I said, stepping closer. We don't have time for a dramatic internal crisis. I know what this does. He said quietly. So do I. You don't. I stilled. What happens when this shuts down, he continued, isn't just silence. I know. It's absence. I know. They lose the structure holding them together. They were never meant to have it, I said. His jaw tightened. And if that breaks them? I stepped in front of him, forced him to look at me. Then we help them rebuild, I said. That's not how this works. Then we change how it works. A pause. Heavy. Then. You really believe that? Yes. You don't know if it's possible. No. Another beat. Then. Neither do they. Silence. Then. A flicker. Something in his expression shifting. Breaking. Just slightly. And then. He nodded. Decision made. Finally. Stay back, he said. Still not happening. Isaac. I'm not letting you do this alone. A long look. Then. Fine. His hand moved. Fast. Precise. Commands input. Systems responding. Warnings flashing across the screen. Core instability detected. Phase collapse imminent. Well, I muttered. That seems promising. The room began to hum louder. Energy building. Unstable. Irreversible. Dorian didn't move. Didn't hesitate. He hit the final command. And the system came alive. The system didn't shut down. It fought. The hum turned into a roar, low at first, then rising, filling the room until it felt like it was vibrating through my bones. The structure at the center pulsed, light flickering along its surface in sharp, irregular bursts. Tell me this is part of the plan, I said. It's not, Dorian replied. Great. The screens around us erupted in warnings. Phase collapse in progress. Structural failure imminent. The floor trembled. Not enough to knock us down. Enough to remind us it could. I stepped closer to the core, shielding my eyes from the sudden surge of light. This thing is going to blow, I said. Yes. And we're still standing here. Yes. Fantastic. Dorian moved. Fast. Precise. Adjusting something on the panel. Rerouting energy. Trying to control something that clearly didn't want to be controlled anymore. You need to go, he said. Not happening. Isaac. I said no. Another pulse. Stronger. The light flared. Blinding for a split second. And then. Everything snapped. Not the building. Not the room. The connection. I felt it even without feeling it. A shift. Like something invisible had been stretched too far. And finally broke. Above us, beyond the concrete and steel, the sky changed. I didn't see it yet. But I knew. The moon, I said. It's collapsing, Dorian confirmed. The structure screamed. Metal bending. Energy fracturing. Now it's going to blow, I said. Yes. Still not leaving. His gaze snapped to me. Fury. Fear. Something deeper. You don't get to die here, he said. Neither do you. Another tremor. The ceiling cracked. Dust fell in thin lines around us. Time was gone. This was it. Dorian. I said, quieter now. He didn't answer. He was already moving. Toward me. Too fast. Too deliberate. What are you? The explosion didn't happen all at once. It built. Pressure. Light. Sound collapsing inward before it could break outward. And then. It did. I didn't remember hitting the ground. Didn't remember the impact. Just. Darkness. Consciousness came back in fragments. Sound first. Distant. Muted. Then. Pain. Sharp. Immediate. Everywhere. Okay, I croaked. That's new. A hand pressed against my shoulder. Firm. Grounding. Stay still, Dorian. Of course it was. I forced my eyes open. The room was different, not destroyed, but damaged. The core. Gone. Just an empty space, where it had been. You're alive, I said. You sound surprised. I was there for the explosion. So was I. Right, I muttered. We should both be dead. A pause. Then, you almost were. I turned my head slightly. Bad idea. Pain flared. Define almost. You were closer than I'd prefer. Comforting. I tried to sit up. Failed. Don't, he said. Not a fan of being told what to do. Get used to it. Unlikely. A beat. Then? What happened? I asked. Dorian didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. The system collapsed. And the projection failed. My chest tightened. The second moon. Gone. I exhaled slowly. Relief didn't come the way I expected. It wasn't clean. It wasn't triumphant. It was quiet. Like something had finally stopped pressing against the edges of the world. We did it, I said. Yes. And the city? Adjusting. That's one way to put it. Silence settled between us. Not heavy. Not tense. Just there. I looked at him. Really looked. Dust on his clothes. A faint cut along his jaw. Control still there, but thinner now. Worn. You stayed, I said. He didn't answer. You could have left, I continued. Before it blew. Yes. But you didn't. No. Why? A pause. Then. You know why. I did. Didn't make it easier to hear. I let out a slow breath. Yeah, I said. I do. The city didn't return to normal. It shifted. Slower this time. Less violent. Like something had been removed. And everything else was figuring out how to exist without it. Reports came in. Fewer incidents. Less escalation. Not perfect, but real. For the first time in a long time. Real. I stood on the same rooftop days later, looking out over it all. The skyline, the lights. The people who didn't know how close everything had come to breaking. Footsteps behind me. I didn't turn. You took your time, I said. I had things to handle. Of course you did. He stepped up beside me. Close. Not too close. Just enough. We stood there for a moment. Quiet. Then, you're free now, I said. I meant it. No system. No control. No invisible hand pressing everything into place. Just choice. Dorian didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was steady. No, now I choose. I glanced at him. That wasn't what I expected. Choose what? I asked. His gaze didn't leave the city. You. That did something to my chest. I wasn't prepared to analyze, so I didn't. Bold move. I said instead. Yes. High risk. Yes. Terrible timing. Yes. A pause. Then. Still doing it? Yes. I huffed a quiet laugh. Figures. Another silence. Easier this time. Lighter. I looked up at the sky. One moon. Exactly where it was supposed to be. Unremarkable. Perfect. Real. Turns out, I said quietly. One moon is enough. I glanced at him. If you have someone who keeps you from losing yourself under it,